everyone, and welcome back to the 30-Day Summit. My name is Bailey Richard, and this is my Part 2 interview with Peng Joon. Now, if you haven't already watched my first part interview with Peng, all about how he creates events and sells tickets to those events, you'll want to make sure that you do that first because he really drops a lot of value and lays a foundation for what he's going to be talking about in this interview, showing us behind the scenes of his funnels about how he sells those tickets to his events. But before we dive into that, Peng wanted to start off by sharing a little bit of strategy with you. So Peng, why don't you take it away?
Okay, so I want to begin by sharing with you like the thought process behind the funnels that you build. So before I show you the funnels that behind the scenes of what I'm doing, I want to share with you like the thought process and how I strategize everything beforehand before I build the funnels. And the way I do it is I think about what Apple does. And what Apple does is they create products that's kind of similar, right? The iPod, the iPhone, their Macs, their iPads, but it's different enough so that people will still want to buy all of them. So when I create my products and when I create my funnels, I think about the same process. And I begin with the ambition the person wants, the result they want to generate. So this funnel that I'm about to reveal to you is about the ambition of people who want to learn how to speak, close, and sell. And they can do it online through webinars, sales videos, Facebook Live, or offline through live events. So beginning with that in mind, that is going to dictate the funnels I build. Now that's basically one ambition line. If you take a look at what most marketers are doing, most marketers have this thought process, which is the more funnels and the more launches and the more products I create, the more money I'll make. And that's why if you take a look at every single platform out there, every single marketer on ClickBank or JVZoo, you will see that every other month they're promoting some sort of new launch because they think that that is key to make more money. And in fact, if you really think about it, that's kind of like Nokia and BlackBerry and Sony Ericsson creating a brand new model every single week. And you really think about it, like how many models can you actually remember? For me, the Nokia was like Nokia 3210. And if you had that in school, you'd be like the cool kid in school back then, right? But other than that, nobody really remembers the models. And in fact, you actually create confusion in the marketplace. So it's not about launching a new product every month. It is about strategically thinking about what is their ambition, the result they want to generate, and then create these products with different price points to fill up these gaps, just like what Apple did. And this is how I create all of my products. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen right now. And I'm going to begin with the webinar funnel, okay? So this webinar funnel over here is what I talked about in the 30 days, which is like the start of the entire process, okay? So you'll notice like in week 1, I'm gonna build up a very simple webinar funnel, okay? The only difference is I'm actually gonna do it live. This webinar funnel is an automated webinar sequence whereby it's straight up, they sign up, right? So like, take a look at this. What's the ambition? It's basically showing them the formula used in sales videos, webinars, offline events, so that a person who wants to learn how to speak, sell, or close will be able to learn how to do it. Okay, so it's a standard pages. It's register for it. Thank you, you're registered. Okay, here's the live webinar. This is the automated webinar, right? But in the first week, I will actually do a live webinar. And if they missed it, this would be the webinar replay, okay? And this is the checkout page. And after they check out, before I move into the funnel stack, just take a look at these 5 pages right now. The first thing to understand in my first week I mentioned is that you want to create a list, a custom audience of every single scenario a person might be in your funnel. So think about it. What would that look like? Now, to really maximize the returns on your ad spend, here's what you need to be doing. You need to create an audience based on every single scenario, which is like they registered for your webinar, or perhaps they landed on your page, but didn't register for your webinar. So that's an ad right there. It would be, hey, I noticed you came to my page, you visited my page, but you did not register for my webinar. Did something happen? Click here to register for the next upcoming webinar, right? Because this is for people who came to this page but didn't go to the thank you page. the next scenario, what would it be? It would be people who registered for your webinar but didn't show up, right? So they came to this page but not this page. So then your ad would say something different. Hey, I noticed you registered for our webinar, but we missed you on the webinar. Right? And this is where people will be like, what? How does Peng Joon know? And this is where you can create really, really targeted ads. What about people who came to your live webinar, but they didn't go to the checkout page? Right? Do you think that would be a very likely scenario? Well, of course, right? These are basically 95% of the time, maybe even 90% of the time if your conversion rate is good. So you would be leaving a lot of money on the table if you do not create these type of custom audiences. Okay, these could be people who came to your webinar for the replay but did not go to the checkout page. Or what if they went to your checkout page but they didn't go to the thank you page, which is basically filling up this form, putting in their credit card details. So then that is where this is going to be a very, very hot retargeting list for people who came to my checkout page but then did not go to my thank you page. This is where I'm going to take all of my testimonials and my social proof, and I'm going to queue it up to people who visited this link but did not go to my thank you page. And this is where I'm going to say, hey, I noticed that you have not taken action yet, but one of the things I want to share with you is so-and-so who got XYZ result. And then now I'm just going to queue up all these different testimonial-based ads and rotate them until they actually buy. And you're going to realize that it's because it's such a small targeted list of people who are sitting on the fence. This is where it's not unusual to get like 10-to-1 returns on this audience set. Okay, now you'll notice that in week 2 of my 30-day action plan, I mentioned something like this. This is what happens on the back end. Okay, now what happens now is, so most marketers, this is where they stop. They stop after this sequence. They create the webinar sequence and then they're done. They just keep hammering the webinar replay and that's it. But what if you actually added an extra sequence? This is the product launch sequence made famous by Jeff Walker, right? Now, while this is a great sequence on the front end, like 7 years ago, the problem with this funnel that I mentioned in an earlier interview is that you'll not be able to see your results instantly. You'll have to wait a week. So this is where it's great to be stacked as the back end funnel. So now people, whether they bought or not, they'll be going into my product launch funnel through email. So this is where they receive video number 1, and you'll notice there's nothing to buy. It's just straight up, how long is this video? 40 minutes worth of free training. Give them action steps. They'll be able to download an entire framework. They'll be able to leave comments. Okay, so it's nothing for sale, right? So you know this is basically just to build social proof, okay, and trust. So they receive video 1, video 2, video 3, and these 3 videos, even though there's nothing for sale, I am building, I'm telling my story, my successes, my struggles, my beliefs, all of that, origin story, at the same time strategically answering objections. And after this 3 video sequence that is 2 days apart, I send them to video number 4, which is the sales video again. Okay, so notice that now after the webinar funnel, I'm sending them to video 1, 2, 3, and then the sales video. So now notice that there's 2 weeks worth of things to promote right now. So on a decent webinar funnel, this is where you'll be able to get 2-to-1 returns with decent retargeting. Okay, if it'll be a whole lot better if your retargeting is done well. But with a funnel stack like this, once they go through the entire funnel with proper retargeting, you can get like 4 or 5-to-1 return for every single dollar you spend, depending on how good your funnel audible is. So that's the reasoning behind this. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, thinking about like how Apple does it. So this first funnel should be the first funnel you build to sell the main thing you actually want to sell, your core product. And to increase the conversion rate of your core product and to get more sales, it's not about launching another product, but to make it deeper. To launch your product launch formula funnel behind the core product that you want to sell at $1,000, $2,000, and then stack it together. Now, the next thing that I do, and this is crazy that I don't see other marketers doing, is this, okay? So what I will do now is I will collect testimonials from students who actually executed on what I taught them in the members area, and I will do a full-fledged 30-minute to 1 hour consult with them. And then I will put it on these separate pages. So for example, this is Sterling Griffin, who did his first live event, and he did $400,000 in his first live event. I know that's powerful, right? So this is like his 90-minute testimonial. So I interviewed him in terms of what he did, what for that $20,000. Whoops. So the what he did well, what could have been improved, and then I show them the stack again with the add to cart. And I'll do this for like dozens of students. So now when they're in my email list, again, now most marketers will stop here. But again, rather than launching new stuff, I want you to think deeper. How do you bring them deeper into the funnel so that you really maximize every single dollar of your ad spend? Okay, so I will collect testimonials. I will do a 30-minute to 1 hour consult with them on what they did right or wrong, right? And I'll do this for different people. So this is Molly who implemented it. And same thing here. I will do the 1 hour. So this consult was like 70 minutes. So what she did that took her closing rate from 5 to 12%. And then again, below that, I'll have the entire stack. So I have like, I think for this funnel alone, I've got like 15 of these pages, just so that I can constantly send people. And again, even if they bought, this is actually good training for them because there's like a full-fledged 30-minute to 1 hour training where they'll be able to learn a lot from what these guys did. Okay, so this is basically like, if you notice this is just like one product, one funnel. And the purpose of this is to really go deep so that for every $1 you spend, you're getting at least, at the very minimum, $2 out. And that should be by the end of the webinar funnel. By the end of the product launch funnel, it should be 3 to 1, 4 to 1. And by the end of all these follow-up sequences on these consults, that's when you can get like 8 or even 10 to 1 returns. Anything you want to add over here, Bailey, before I continue?
Yeah, I'm curious. So you're creating these testimonial pages and then you're getting them to the audience in your email newsletters, did you say? You know, you're just sending out follow-up emails. Is that it?
That's correct.
Okay, great. That was my main question.
So I would also, one of the things is also I would retarget them to ascend them to the next step of the funnel. So one of the things I would do as well is if I see people that's over here and they haven't taken action yet, maybe I'll just retarget them and send them over here. And then I would, and the people that come to this funnel, this is a very, again, because it's like a back-end funnel, the people that actually go onto these pages, I know that I'll be able to retarget them and send them these testimonial-based ads as well.
Great, fantastic. Yep, makes total sense. I love the ingenuity of using the 4-video product launch funnel as a back end after the webinar. You know, so many people tend to think, well, because of the whole Jeff Walker thing, you know, these 4 videos leading to the sales video is how I launch the product to begin with. You're saying it's fantastic after you've already gotten somebody to be introduced to the product and you on the webinar to recapture those sales. And I love this approach to funnel stacking. You know, we've spoken a few times before already on this summit about how, you know, you can lead somebody from one funnel into another funnel, and often that can be for different products, but you're emphasizing that it should be about taking them deeper into the same thing, and the ingenuity of using what we would traditionally think of as a launch funnel as a retargeting funnel, I guess if you want to call it that, is pretty great.
Yes, that's correct. So I think that the biggest differentiator is to use a product launch funnel as a back end rather than the front end. Because if it's a front end, which was something that many marketers did a couple of years back, the only problem with that, it's great, just that it'll take at least a week before you can do any tweaks. That's the problem. It's not just the cash flow, but like, how do you know if it's converting? You won't know until like a week later, and that's a horrible thing to do, because you won't have that agility to make any changes.
Definitely. Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to show us?
Yeah, so over here, so like this is the main stack, right from start to the end. So like this is what I talked about, like Apple. Okay, so once you have this thing, what's the next thing to launch? That's when you actually create your front end funnel, right? So like I've already determined that what's the ambition. The ambition is for people who want to learn how to speak, sell online, offline. Okay, so in order to now cater to a larger audience, now I would create a front end funnel. And basically what this front end funnel is, you've probably seen this. It's a typical free plus shipping offer, right? But like this funnel sells a product at $1,000, right? And I know that not everyone could be, this wouldn't be appealing to many people, especially if you've never heard of me. So what do? I decrease the barrier to entry, and now I create like a front end funnel, which is a free plus shipping, so that I can acquire leads for free. So basically what this front end funnel is, it's my free plus shipping, where the average cart value for this funnel right now is about $45. So which means for every book that I give out for free, it's generating me $45. Now, so what that tells me is I can run ads on Facebook, and I can pay up to, the cost of printing and shipping is approximately $10. So that means that on Facebook, I can actually pay up to $35 to acquire a customer and still break even. So it's costing us on average about $18 to acquire a customer to claim a free book from us. So now we are already generating 2-to-1 returns on this funnel. And now all these different leads that I'm getting for free, because it pays for itself, I can now ascend them into this thing. So now there's a strategy behind it. See, because I've created the core funnel, but now I'm creating the front end funnel for it. And now the front end funnel is already generating 2-to-1. And then now it's about creating different entry points. So then now I create another front end funnel. So same thing here. Once you create the core funnel, then the next thing you want to do is how can you create more front end funnels. So this is another front end funnel that we created, and this has got an average cart value of $95 right now. So for every booklet we give away, we're actually generating $95 on the front end. But the powerful stuff is that the OTO tool for this is actually a $97 recurring a month. So now this fuels it even further, because we hear this all the time, right? The person who can pay most for a customer wins. So now, because I'm creating these front-end funnels that's already making me money on the front end, I can now afford to be really, really aggressive with my ads. Now, with that in mind, once we create the front-end funnel, that is where the front-end funnel is going to fuel the core funnels even further, okay? And I can afford to pay even more for it before I create the back-end funnel. Is there anything you want to find out about the front-end funnel before I go to the back-end funnel?
Yeah, I'm definitely curious. So let's just take the free book offer, the free plus shipping offer. Once somebody opts in and actually wants to get their, free book, how does it look like for you to get them from that stage into the webinar?
Right. So okay. This part is really powerful. Okay. So a typical book funnel has got the order bump, and they have the 2 one-time offers. Okay. Once whether they get it or not, they'll go to a members area. Now on the members area, I should have loaded the page, but on the members area, that's where they would have like, hey, I've got a free webinar coming up, and I will create a special webinar just for the buyers. So like, for example, this funnel, it's straight up like, hey, I want to thank you for buying this book, Platform Closing. The only problem is this book's going to, depending on where you stay, it might take a week, maybe even 2 weeks if it's an international order for it to actually arrive. So I thought, why not start your training right now? Let's start your training right now that's exclusive just for Platform Closing buyers. And basically what it is I do a separate training, which is basically this webinar, but in the form of a flip chart in the context of people who bought this book so that it's special for them. So now I'm taking everyone who bought my book to go into this funnel, and through my email sequence, they will still be notified of this webinar funnel probably like a week later, after I've given them, enough value.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense.
Yes. So that's how I send people from free plus shipping on a front end funnel to the core funnels. And then that's where after that, I will create a back end funnel. So for example, like again, ambition line, I'm thinking about what do people want to do? So I know that over here, remember, think about Apple, similar, but different enough to want to buy all of them. So over here, I'm teaching people like how do you do presentations. Okay, so over here, same thing. It's basically platform closing, how to speak online, offline in the form of a book. Now, I know that naturally the next thing people want to do is to do live events. So now, this is where I'm going to think about like how can I help people create their own live event. So that's where I create this offer now, which is this is a high ticket $2,000 online course where I show people like, look, I've done more than 200 plus different events. I've got all these different testimonials in here. It's a long form sales letter. And one of the things I want to mention as well, since we're on this topic, is that long form sales letter is back. Reason being, Chrome has discontinued, Google, videos autoplaying. So one of the things that I'm going back to again is focusing on long form sales letter, and I know that this thing is going to really make a huge difference moving forward to create the offer. Okay, so notice now I've got the $7.95 offer. I've got the $1,000 offer. I've got the $2,000 offer. And again, these are people who want to do live events. So I'm thinking like, what's the next thing? The next thing would be people who want to come in person and train with me at a small, private, intimate event where I actually coach them on how to speak, close, or run live events. And that would be my high ticket $15,000 event. So notice that this entire sequence over here is thinking about what is the person's ambition, and then only creating different products at different price point to serve their ambition. And I think pretty much the entire sequence. So there's the core offer funnel. So in terms of if I were to start all over again, that's the thing I would do. I would start with my core offer, thinking about the webinar funnel sequence first, and then the product launch sequence, and then documenting all of the testimonials in terms of case studies. And that will all serve my core funnel so that for every $1 I spend, I'm going to get back at the very minimum, like $3 once they go through the entire sequence. Then I will create the front end funnel, which is the free plus shipping, to help me get leads for free. Now, many times people think that the front end funnel should be the first funnel we build, but that's not the case because it's really hard to make money through a front end funnel. You got to get like all your stars got to be aligned. So rather than doing that first, you think about it like in order for my front end funnel to get those numbers, I have got to make sure that my sales page is converting at 8%. My order bump converts at 35%. My OTO1, which is a $297 offer, converts at like 15%. And then my OTO2, which is $97 trial, converts at about 17%. So those are pretty good, decent numbers. And in order to do that, I'm only getting like 2.5 to 3 returns for every $1 I spent. However, if you really think about it, on a webinar funnel, even if your closing rate was 3%, you'll still make a profit. So a webinar funnel can be actually very forgiving, and that's why I'll start off with that first, and then the front end funnel, and then the back end funnel, and then the application funnel to the high ticket. And that's how I would build up my funnels if I were to start all over again.
It makes sense. It's exactly what Russell's telling us. After you have your core offer, leave the core offer alone and then create those front-end offers to keep driving people into that core offer. Fantastic. Peng, is there any final thought that you'd like to share with our audience before we wrap up this interview today?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that whenever you create these different products, just think about what is the result you want to help your customers achieve? What is the thing that they want to do? And then strategically create those things so that you can serve them at the highest level.
Fantastic. Peng, thank you so much for sharing all of the incredible value that you have on this summit. We're really grateful to have you, and we thank you for participating.
Thank you for having me.